Athletes who use visualization alongside physical training perform up to 45% better than those who train physically alone. That is not a motivational poster quote. That is a finding repeated across multiple peer-reviewed sports psychology studies. And yet, most people who try visualization do it completely wrong, get zero results, and then dismiss the entire practice as pseudoscience. The real mechanism behind visualization is far more precise, far more scientific, and far more powerful than anything you have been told. In the next 10 minutes, you are going to learn exactly how visualization works at the neurological level, why most people waste their time doing it incorrectly, and a specific technique that separates people who actually achieve their goals from people who just daydream about them. There is one critical distinction that almost nobody makes when talking about this subject, and once you understand it, your relationship with this practice will change permanently. Stay with this until the end, because the most important piece comes later. Visualization has existed as a deliberate practice for thousands of years. Ancient Greek athletes mentally rehearsed their events before competing. Buddhist meditation traditions have included visualization practices for over 2,000 years. Native American cultures used mental imagery rituals before hunts and battles. But it was not until the 20th century that scientists began to understand why it actually worked. In the 1960s and 1970s, Soviet sports scientists began systematically studying mental training in Olympic athletes. They divided athletes into 4 groups. The first group did 100% physical training. The second group did 75% physical and 25% mental training. The third group did 50% each. The fourth group did 25% physical and 75% mental training. The results shocked the scientific community. Group 4, the athletes who spent the most time on mental training, showed the greatest performance improvements going into the 1980 Olympics. This research helped launch the entire modern field of sports psychology. But here is what nobody talks about when they reference those Soviet studies. The mental training they used was not passive wishful thinking. It was structured, sensory-rich, emotionally engaged mental rehearsal. There is a massive difference, and that difference is everything. Your brain contains approximately 86 billion neurons. These neurons form connections called synapses, and the patterns of those connections literally define your habits, your skills, your automatic behaviors, and your beliefs about what is possible for you. Every time you perform an action or think a thought, specific neural pathways activate. When you repeat that action or thought, those pathways strengthen. This is called neuroplasticity, and it is the biological foundation that makes visualization work. Here is the key insight. Neuroimaging research from Harvard Medical School found that when people vividly imagine performing an action, the same regions of the brain activate as when they physically perform that action. Your motor cortex, your cerebellum, the areas that control movement and coordination, they cannot fully distinguish between a real experience and a vividly imagined one. This means deliberate visualization is literally building and reinforcing the neural pathways associated with success before you even take physical action. A famous piano study from Alvaro Pascual-Leon at Harvard demonstrated this in a controlled setting. One group of participants practiced a simple piano sequence physically for 5 days. Another group only imagined practicing the same sequence without touching the keys at all. Brain scans at the end of the 5 days showed that both groups had developed nearly identical changes in the neural circuitry associated with finger movement. The mental practice group had physically rewired their brains without moving a single finger. So why do most people fail at visualization? Because they confuse outcome visualization with process visualization. Outcome visualization means you picture yourself already having achieved the goal. You imagine holding the trophy, driving the car, living in the house. It feels good, it creates positive emotion, and research from the University of California by psychologist Gabrielle Ettingen found that it can actually reduce your motivation to take action. When your brain vividly experiences the reward, it partially satisfies the desire that drives you forward. You get a neurological taste of the prize and your urgency decreases. Process visualization is the opposite. You mentally rehearse the specific actions, the decisions, the challenges, and the responses required to reach the goal. You see yourself doing the work, handling the obstacles, recovering from setbacks, and persisting through difficulty. This type of visualization strengthens exactly the neural pathways that productive behavior requires. It is the difference between imagining a finish line and running the race in your mind. Engine's research introduced a method called WOOP, which stands for Wish, Outcome, Obstacle, Plan. Studies using WOOP with students, healthcare workers, and athletes consistently show dramatically higher goal achievement rates compared to positive fantasy alone. The reason is that WOOP forces you to mentally rehearse not just success, but the specific internal obstacles, the emotions, the doubts, the resistance that will arise on the path to success. And when you rehearse your response to those obstacles in advance, your brain is primed to execute those responses automatically when they actually appear. But here is what nobody talks about, and this is where the real power gets unlocked. Visualization is not just a cognitive tool. It is a deeply emotional one. Research on mental imagery consistently shows that emotional engagement is the amplifier that determines how much neural change actually occurs. A visualization that produces strong emotion creates stronger neural imprinting than a flat, detached mental image. This is why the vividness of your visualization matters more than its duration. 5 minutes of fully engaged, emotionally activated, sensory-rich mental rehearsal will outperform 30 minutes of lazy daydreaming every single time. The practical application here is specific. When you visualize, you need to engage all 5 senses. If you are mentally rehearsing a difficult sales presentation, you do not just see yourself talking. You feel the floor beneath your feet, you hear the sound of the room, you feel the physical sensation of confidence in your chest, you notice what you are wearing and how you are standing. The more sensory channels you activate, the more your brain treats the experience as real, and the more powerfully it lays down the corresponding neural pathways. Elite athletes understand this instinctively. Michael Phelps famously used what his coach Bob Bowman called watching the videotape, a nightly visualization practice where Phelps would mentally swim perfect and imperfect races in complete multisensory detail, including visualizing races where something went wrong, like his goggles filling with water, and then mentally rehearsing the exact response required to still win. When his goggles actually did fill with water at the 2008 Beijing Olympics in the 200-meter butterfly, he did not panic. He had already solved that problem dozens of times in his mind. He won gold and broke the world record. Research from the Journal of Applied Sport Psychology shows that this kind of combined mental and physical practice, what psychologists call PET-LEP imagery, which stands for physical, environment, task, timing, learning, emotion, and perspective, produces significantly greater skill acquisition and performance improvement than either method alone. The physical training builds the body. The mental training builds the nervous system's patterns of execution under pressure. There is one more dimension of visualization that is almost never discussed in mainstream conversations about goal achievement, and that is identity-level visualization. Most people visualize outcomes or behaviors. The most effective practitioners visualize from the inside out. They do not see themselves achieving the goal like watching a movie. They visualize through their own eyes, as the person they are becoming, feeling the internal state of that identity. Psychologists call this first-person or internal perspective imagery, and studies consistently show it produces stronger behavioral change than third-person perspective imagery. When you visualize from inside the experience, feeling what it feels like to be the person who has already developed the skills, the discipline, the confidence you need, you begin to close the gap between your current identity and your goal identity at the neurological level. Your subconscious mind starts to treat that future self as a reference point for current decisions. This is why so many high performers describe visualization not as a goal-setting tool but as an identity-shaping tool. The summary is this. Visualization works because the brain cannot fully distinguish between vivid mental experience and physical reality.